The morning arrived with a gentle hush, the kind of silence that feels almost alive, carrying whispers of memories you didn't realize were tucked away. My granddaughter, Lily, had been dropped off early, her parents both working double shifts at the hospital. She's 8, with a restless curiosity that seems to gather every little detail around her. The serious determination of children who feel too young to understand yet too old to ignore the world's questions. The house had a new rhythm with her in it. Maybe it was the soft tap of her socks across the wooden floors, or the way the sunlight seemed to follow her, stretching along the hall like it didn't want to miss a single moment. She had grown so quickly, yet still clung to my presence in ways that made me feel essential, like her thoughts might scatter if I weren't there to catch them. We began our day with the usual routine: breakfast at the small kitchen table, Lily insisting she could pour her own cereal, though she inevitably spilled some along the way. I pretended not to notice, sitting quietly, watching her tiny hands tilt the box with exaggerated care. Afterward, we wandered to the backyard. The morning air was crisp, just hinting at the arrival of autumn, that delicate pause between warm and cold where the world feels slightly suspended. Lily gravitated toward the old cherry tree at the far end of the yard, the one with gnarled branches that bend down almost as if they were whispering secrets to anyone patient enough to listen. "Grandma," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight I hadn't expected from someone so small. "Can I ask you something?" I wiped my hands on my apron and joined her by the tree. There was a tension in her small face, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Of course, sweetie," I said. She hesitated, glancing up at the branches as though seeking courage. "Do you ever feel scared being alone?" The question caught me off guard, not because of fear, but because of its honesty. Children have a way of noticing things adults try to conceal. I knelt beside her, brushing a stray strand of hair from her forehead. I admitted, "Sometimes I do, but having you here today makes it easier." Her eyes softened, thoughtful, and she whispered, almost as if to herself, "I think you're the safest person I know." The words settled quietly between us, as if the world had paused to let them hang in the morning air. I drew her close, and she rested against me without hesitation. Under the cherry tree, with the gentle sway of branches above, something shifted, a subtle, unspoken acknowledgement that our connection had deepened. "Come on, Grandma," she said, grinning. "Let's make something." We returned to the kitchen, and Lily declared we would bake muffins. I hesitated, unsure I remembered the recipe, but her confident little nod left me with no room to object. Flour, sugar, and blueberries soon covered the counters, our hands dusted with white powder, laughter echoing off the walls. She guided the process with exaggerated seriousness, checking my attention every few seconds, and I couldn't help but marvel at her focus, her insistence that each muffin be perfectly imperfect. As the batter baked, we sat on the couch with warm mugs of cocoa, the sun filtering through the window and painting her golden hair in streaks of light. Then she asked something I hadn't expected. "Grandma, do you think talking about things makes them less scary?" I paused, considering her question. There was a wisdom in it that belied her years, a directness that made me reflect on my own quiet evenings when unspoken worries gathered like shadows. "Yes," I said finally, "talking doesn't solve everything, but it reminds you you're not carrying it alone." She leaned back, resting her head against the couch, a small sigh escaping her lips. "I like talking to you. You really hear me." A lump formed in my throat. not from sadness, but from the clarity of the moment. Here was this little girl, tiny in stature, yet vast in perception, teaching me the value of simple presence and understanding. The timer beeped, pulling us back into the warmth of the kitchen. She carefully removed the muffins, our hands brushing as we held the tray, and admired our work. The golden tops, slightly cracked and uneven, felt like little crowns of accomplishment. Later, she asked to climb the cherry tree, and though I hesitated, she promised she'd be careful. Watching her ascend, her small hands gripping the branches with cautious determination, I thought of the trust she placed in me, not just to watch over her, but to understand her, to witness her confidence. Afterward, we settled on the porch swing, the world quiet around us. She leaned against my shoulder, voice soft and contemplative. "Grandma, do you ever wish things could be simpler?" I held her close. Sometimes I do, but moments like this remind me that the present can be just as beautiful as any memory we long for.
She smiled, the kind of smile that rests quietly in the chest and lingers, the one that speaks of peace and understanding without needing words. The sky deepened to soft shades of orange and rose, sunlight spilling through the yard in long, gentle rays. She turned her gaze toward me, thoughtful. "Thank you for today," she whispered. "I like being with you." I squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of her trust. Safe. That simple word resonated deeply, like a gentle echo I hadn't realized I needed. As the afternoon stretched, she curled on the couch with a blanket that still smelled faintly of muffins. I sat across from her, sipping tea, watching her yawn and rub her eyes, the quiet rhythm of her breathing like a lullaby I hadn't expected to hear in the daylight. "Grandma, will we always have days like this?" she asked suddenly. I smiled, warmth blooming in my chest. "I hope so," I said softly, "because these days remind us what matters most, being together, sharing, and understanding each other." She rested her head against my shoulder, the silence around us full of unspoken words, of love and gratitude, of the kind of peace that fills the heart without needing sound. Later, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me, eyes wide, earnest. "Thank you for everything today," she said softly. I kissed her forehead. "Thank you too, sweetheart, for reminding me what's important." After closing her door, I lingered in the hallway, letting the quiet settle. The day hadn't been filled with grand adventures or extraordinary events, yet it had marked a mark, subtle but permanent. Watching her sleep, I realized the unexpected lessons life gives often come in the smallest moments, in shared laughter, whispered truths, gentle trust, and quiet understanding. That night I sat in my chair by the window, tea in hand, thinking of the way a child's presence can illuminate parts of yourself you thought were long gone. Life could be chaotic, heavy, and unpredictable, yet within those ordinary hours there were fragments of extraordinary clarity. The gift of being truly seen, even by someone so small, was a lesson I would carry forever. As the moonlight spilled across the floor, I felt gratitude. Gratitude for her, for family, and for the quiet moments that, unnoticed by the world, had reshaped the contours of my heart. Yes, the day had surprised me. Yes, my heart had opened. And yes, I knew the bond we had strengthened that day was something timeless, something I would treasure for the rest of my life. Because sometimes it's not the grand moments that change us, but the small ones, where love, understanding, and presence quietly carve themselves into the soul. As the sunlight softened into afternoon gold, Lily tugged at my hand. "Grandma, can we explore the creek behind our street? I promise we'll be careful." I hesitated for a moment, glancing at the quiet street, the low hum of distant traffic, the familiar trees bending in the wind. But her eyes, bright and insistent, carried a gentle conviction I couldn't ignore. "All right," I said, "but we'll stay together, okay?" Her face lit up. "Together," she echoed, her small hand gripping mine with unexpected strength. We walked down the familiar path, leaves crunching under our shoes, the air carrying that crisp early autumn scent that seemed to mix earth, rain, and promise. Along the way, she paused at every turning branch, every bright leaf, every scattered acorn. "Look, Grandma," she whispered, "this one is like a tiny golden boat." I smiled, watching her imagination unfold in the smallest details. It struck me how easy it was to forget the world's small wonders in adulthood, how we often rush past the beauty hiding in plain sight. By the time we reached the creek, the water shimmered in patches of silver sunlight, moving gently over smooth stones. Lily crouched down, picking up pebbles and tossing them in, listening intently to the soft plunk they made as they hit the water. I settled beside her, letting the breeze wash over us, watching her little rituals. "Grandma, do you think the creek remembers everything it's seen?" I chuckled softly. "Maybe. I think it holds little pieces of everyone who comes here, tiny memories that ripple forever, even if no one notices." She nodded seriously, as though absorbing a great truth. Then, with a mischievous grin, she skipped across a stepping stone, nearly losing her balance. I caught her elbow just in time, and we both laughed, the sound echoing along the banks. After a while, a neighbor appeared, walking her elderly dog along the same path. Lily waved enthusiastically, and the woman smiled. "Exploring, are we?" she asked kindly. Lily nodded, eyes sparkling. "The creek holds secrets." The woman's smile softened. "Then treasure them. Secrets are always the best things to find." As she continued on her walk, Lily whispered, "Grandma, maybe we're like the creek. We keep all our little memories, even if nobody notices them." I felt a lump in my throat. She had a way of speaking that fell deeper than her years, every word carrying weight. "Yes, sweetie," I said quietly. "We carry the little moments, the big ones, and everything in between. That's what makes us who we are." By the time we returned home, our shoes damp, pockets full of small treasures, smooth stones, fallen leaves, and tiny acorns, we were both tired but strangely energized. Lily flopped onto the couch, sighing contentedly. "Grandma, can we read a story before dinner?" I nodded, fetching a well-worn book of fairy tales. She curled up beside me, head resting on my shoulder as I read aloud. Each story seemed to pull us further into a shared imagination, where dragons, forests, and distant kingdoms existed, just beyond our living room walls.